Welcome to a world shaped by you, the viewers. Each chapter, we explore a dilemma. The outcome will be decided by your vote and revealed in a future episode. This time, we're in the Mailare Union. It is under attack. 3 foes threaten the states of the Federation. The Nomads to the east and 2 neighboring kingdoms seeking to control the coastline and dominate local trade. In this situation, a deadly blow is dealt. One of the greatest commanders is slain in battle. With this, the Union seems to be nearing its end. But wait, Abundius Cassius, his son, is here to take revenge, and its fate lies in your hands. The Mailare Union has long been an ideal instrument against these threats. In fact, it was founded when Prince Aurincas di Pala agreed to defend Tulge in a siege that could have allowed Leserti to conquer the rest of the Mailare coast. The attack made local rulers realize the Leserti-Gungarian alliance was a mortal threat. They understood that only unity could help them retain their lands. After signing the pact, the united armies led by Aurincas lifted the siege of Tulge and counterattacked the Gungarians, rescuing the newly formed union. Since then, many threats have arisen and been repelled, but Mailare has never launched a joint offensive. As a result, these threats returned over and over and over again. And when it comes to the steppe nomads, they're the type of threat to vanish before you can confront it. After several elections with different lords ruling the Union, the nobles have lost faith in its promise. Meanwhile, conflicts in the west left the nomadic frontier abandoned for decades. The despoiled land couldn't protect itself, but one small march with a talented general named Salamius Cassius managed to shine as an example of dealing with nomadic clans for good. The small country, governed by soldiers, was built upon the ancient fort of Kehas. They carried on this legacy by building a series of forts known as Gungini, meaning earth in their language. That's how the small principality could quickly and inexpensively secure the former nomadic area, also preventing further raids and looting. A typical Gungini features 3 main elements. A simple ditch to keep invaders at a distance, thick walls of rammed earth rising from the ground protecting the inhabitants from nomadic raids, and watchtowers, one of which holds a campfire to signal impending attacks. Turmoil in the west drove waves of migrants eastward, each new fort providing space for settlement and each migrant enabling the construction of more forts. Thanks to their easy construction and a major river for delivering supplies and reinforcements, Kehas grew from a backwater buffer state with a single fort into an important regional power, equal in strength to the wealthier regions of Mailare. All this was achieved within the lifetime of a talented general, Salamius. Thanks to his genius, he didn't lose a single battle in his campaigns, earning him the nickname Undefeated. Although the local clans resisted colonization by attacking settlers, they didn't have enough men to defeat the Kehasians. Their only major attempt was the Battle of the Open Walls. A Gungini construction crew was typically assisted by the army and had sufficient supplies to complete its work. However, this time, their entire food supply was destroyed by rodents. The situation seemed dire. Abandoning the fort wasn't an option because the locals would see it as a betrayal and Salamius needed his soldiers to remain loyal. The leader decided that his professional soldiers would depart for supplies, as he deemed them safe from attacks, and he would stay with the garrison and defend the fort in case of an attack. Since his force consisted mostly of crossbowmen, he arranged them to cover as many key areas as possible. Some were stationed on the walls, ready to shoot into the crossfire zone. while the rest remained below, serving as both bait and protection against a potential wall assault. It wasn't long before the Nomads noticed that half of the Khazarian force was missing. They devised a plan: harass the fort to confuse the defenders and provoke premature fire, then sent a group of horse archers close enough to lure the men that were beneath the walls into a trap. Soon after, the battle began. Horse archers started shooting at the walls from all sides. Salamius knew that the reload time was too long to risk engaging them. He ordered his men to hold fire. Frustrated, the Nomads sent some men onto the wall to frighten the defenders into shooting, but it was to no avail. Determined, they went ahead with the second part of the plan. As the trap-making contingent drew near, Salamius shouted, "Fire!" and the crossbowmen unleashed a storm of bolts upon the attackers. Most of the horsemen fell, and the rest retreated. The defenders repelled the threat. That victory secured the success of the Khaz campaign, and became a source of long-standing pride for the Khazarians. But the Eldes were busy preparing another offensive. Having migrated south and pivoted to pillaging the Lessertians, the small clan began unifying other groups on the border. Over time, under the new leadership of a man named Eldu, the clan grew into a formidable force, uniting all the local peoples, and even hiring western mercenaries for attacks on Lesserti. Eldu, who rose to fame after slaying a boar in a single combat, proved himself a worthy leader when his army defeated the superior Lessertian counterattack alone. Another crucial part of the Eldes' preparations was securing a network of tributaries across the villages and cities of Lesserti. Their king, distracted by the western coastline, had abandoned his citizens, and the Eldes were quick to exploit it. These tributaries supplied them food, gold, and fresh troops. With mercenary siege engines, new units of slaves, warriors from tributaries, and their own elite army, the Eldes forged a formidable force, ready to partake in a manpower-heavy siege warfare. After years of crushing the Lessertians, the emboldened Eldu aimed to seize the ultimate prize, reclaiming the northern lands for his people. His first step was laying siege to the same Gungini they had attempted to disrupt a decade earlier. Meanwhile, the Khazarians upgraded their forts with brick walls, some of which grew in size and developed small cities. Salamius's army had grown as well, now being a well-trained force, with professional soldiers and quality equipment. The general led the relief force toward the Gungini, but avoided a direct attack on the enemy's larger force. Instead, he positioned his troops behind the besiegers, cutting off their supplies. Eldu could have merely harassed the Khazarians, but it would have given them time to prepare stronger defenses and raid his southern supply parties. So instead, he chose to destroy the Khazarian army. The plains favored the Nomads, but their opponent had well-trained infantry and basic anti-cavalry defenses. Eldu's own infantry was mostly a rabble of peasants with basic equipment. That's why Eldu arranged his forces so that the strongest of his cavalrymen would sweep in from the left flank, while the center, mostly made up of weak infantry, would merely hold the enemy in place. The enemy's right flank would be harassed by archers, primarily to keep it occupied and prevent reinforcement of the left. Once the left flank collapsed, the cavalry would strike the infantry from the rear, annihilating the enemy's strongest forces and securing victory. Salamius had predicted that a full frontal attack was not on the nomadic commander's plate. He focused on reinforcing one of the flanks. The cornerstone of his plan was discipline. If any unit broke ranks or chased enemy warriors, a gap could open, and the Nomads would exploit it to crush his infantry. The countermeasures worked flawlessly. The main cavalry advance struck his reinforced flank, and the entire battle line held their ground. The Nomads grew desperate, and as the promised rear assault never arrived, the formation started crumbling. Then, a lone contingent of elite soldiers positioned on the front surged forward to join the flank and turn the tide of battle. While their comrades began to retreat, they rammed into Salamius's formation, killing him with a surprise blow. It didn't change the outcome. The attackers' formation disintegrated and Eldu ordered a retreat. The defenders had won the battle, but had lost someone far more valuable. Salamius was succeeded by Abundius Caesius, far less experienced than his predecessor, but driven by grief and a foe of vengeance. At the same time, Eldu recruited new mercenaries and armed them with upgraded weapons, readying a third siege of the same fort. This time, he was confident. It would be different, as he had prepared for the possibility of a relief force and most importantly, faced no military genius. He also burned the ritual crab in view of the defenders to signal their end. Abundius rushed to defend the fort, but this time the nomads were a little more prepared. The outcome now lies in your hands. Vote in the poll on who should win and write in the comments about the tactics both sides could use to win this battle. It may reshape not just Caesius, but the entirety of Mailare, now facing a more unified nomadic threat.